All right, guys, welcome to Mob Rules Mini-sode number 1.
What?
I know, it's crazy.
Are we starting all over again?
Oh, God, no. Oh,
I guess
God,
even
no.
then we started at 1.5, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we did start at 1.5. So we've never technically had a 1 until iTunes made us renumber everything.
Oh, okay.
I, of course, am John, joined as always via the powers of the internet, which, you know, is no big thing for our listeners because that happens all the time. But for me, it's a big deal, by Ted.
You know, I think it's hilarious that, like, the dogs didn't start barking until you started talking.
Like, absolutely, they did not start barking until...
I bet it was the tapping on the desk. Like, you're...
no, it's the neighbor dogs came out to play. I want to say that Ted is hearing me through a very nice microphone which picks up entire rooms. And I am speaking to you through a very much a more focused mic. So I'm very hopeful that my dog's yapping does not kind of go through.
I mean, great sound effects board. I didn't even realize it was your dogs.
It's for my second career as a Foley artist. But yeah, we kind of wanted to throw this a little mini episode, 30 minutes of your time's tops, most likely. As kind of a little, thank you for putting up with when we tried to. Oh man. So what our deal was like we're gonna reel you in with the promise of talking about the Ultramarines movie, and that's a big selling point. But really, what you're gonna hear is me and Ted in robot suits underwater fucking. We had a little bit of.
I went with 2 rusty robots in a public restroom fucking, but underwater, you're really stacking on the adjectives.
That's a new level.
Poetry, man.
Yeah, new level of poetry. So yeah, obviously, as a little thank you, we're going to do a little mini episode coming out now. A little earlier than usual. We'll still have regular Mob Rules back next week, talking about the Lost Patrol game. But right now, we're going to just get into a little couple of things as kind of a thank you to our fans for putting up with us. I will say, when we did have the episode go through editing, it sounded great. It was just some part on the upload process just ruined it.
Yeah, I feel really bad because I think that in like the day that we had it up, like we had hit like almost record numbers with downloads. So it was like, oh man, now we have to come up with record number apologies.
and now it's just kind of like people are probably just like, wait, what's the appeal of this? I mean, I know you said it sounded shitty, but I thought it was just content, not actual sound.
Well, that's every other week.
Right here on Mob Rules. I thought it would be kind of fun to get together over the internet and talk about our Tale of Gamers stuff. We've touched about it a little bit on the podcast itself. But I what's really ignited myself personally, I know, Ted, you're getting into it a bunch as well, and a few other guys in the group. Yeah.
Like gonorrhea.
Our gonorrhea for fluff has flared up. Wildfire of fluff. For my little Imperial Fist Force, I'm about a novel's worth of layout down.
Wow.
I have about 3 pages of notes about points I want to hit.
Was that like an advertisement to Black Library? Like, hey, I got a novel's worth.
Like, hey, I have 1 novel's worth of ideas for an army you kill off all the time, facing off against an army that doesn't have a codex.
So you're waiting for your what is it, the 32nd 0.5 millennia?
Yeah, year 32.5. I just want to
when you're ready to release that series, I'm there, buddy.
I just want to do like CSI Terra.
That's what really happened.
It's like just blood and semen samples everywhere and Inquisitors going down.
I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't pray to the God Emperor. Yeah! Like whatever they do in the CSI Miami. I think that's the one with the glasses. But yeah, we've really got into the background part on it and kind of making up what our army is about. Why are they there? Why are their forces expanding? All of that kind of fun. Ted, you are rocking a Flash Terrorist Force for this. For those, if this is your first episode listening, first off, thank you. Please check out the back catalog and our mini apology-sode. But our Tale of Gamers takes off of kind of an early 2000s, as my iTunes notifications go off. Early 2000s White Dwarf article where a few guys got together and they had a very budgeted, strict army they had to build. So I know David, one of our local guys who's running it. I'm sure we'll talk to him in the future here about it.
Yeah.
We for our version, week 1 we had $101 to spend, and it was very much encouraged to start with a start collecting stat. And then every 2 weeks after that, we only have $50 we can spend on the GW products or third party or whatever it is at a time to build up our force.
But we could bank too, so that's a lot of guys are banking.
I'm banking like a motherfucker.
I thought you were getting just like a scout squad this last go around, right? So
yeah,
you're banking quite a bit.
Yeah. So week 1, I picked up the Start Collecting Space Marines box and an Inquisitor. Inquisitor was purely for the story outline I put down. And then that left me with, we were taking our local store discounts into account for our totals. So that left me with about $17.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Came into week 2 with $67. Bought a single Scout Squad, again, because of, fluff reasons, which takes me down to about $42.
Yeah.
I'm going to be right around 100 next week. Spoiler alert. I am saving for Betrayal at Calth box.
Are you really?
Yes.
What? So is it going to be like scout squads every week until you get to that point?
No. Next week will be like another sniper scout squad.
I bought a dice. One dice.
but if it's
50 cents.
but it fits my narrative, and I think that's super important for me. Is that it's this small elite force until something happens, which makes them have to be like, oh shit, we have to come back with all the guys. So
Black Templars, save us.
So yeah, and
we
it's
found
not
ourselves in the pudding again.
And it's not Ultramarines jumping down to save Imperial Fists this time. It's Imperial Fists jumping down to do it.
Okay.
So Ted, I went over my first couple weeks of purchases, or couple periods of purchases, I should say. What about you? What are you working on with this again?
Oh, well, let's start out with the half of the Death Storm box. And that was, I think we talked about this in a previous episode. It's just like ridiculous amounts of points. It came up to like almost $1,000, and I probably could have kitted it out even more, but I was trying to build the models for the campaign that came with it.
Yeah.
So, it was playing middle ball, and then bought a tactical squad, ended up banking like $17 or something, and then rolled that into this month. Or maybe it was less than that. Anyway, so it rolled it into this month and got a Storm Raven. I'm starting to think about it like, man, these, because I think like normally we're at like 500 points for most of us, and I'm like almost 1,000 plus a Storm Raven. I have a bad feeling people are gonna have a hard time with that.
Unless you give them free plasma obliterators.
Yeah, well, that worked out pretty well.
Yeah. That Death Storm box is a really, really good value. That's Blood Angels versus Tyranids. The Blood Angel half of that box in particular was a very, very good deal.
Yeah. So, but that's about it so far. I think in the next batch, I'm probably going to go with a Sangori Guard with a Sangori Priest with jump packs, and try to run in. So that's the Apothecary. So run him with those guys. They have a 2-up save. And they have glaives and carmines. So they are at +1 strength at Mastercrafted, and I think it's AP3. You can give them an axe if you want. So it's going to be cool, but it's also going to be lame because they'll be like rolling everybody individually, looking for that one failed.
You're like, please fail.
Yeah. But I think that'll be pretty hard. I think that'll be, the lower point game. We're probably not seeing a whole lot of low AP. Although, unless you're playing against John, who has his grav all over the place.
Yes, John's 2 grav guns.
They put out a lot of points.
They did fuck over a couple of your things pretty bad.
Yeah. Not so much a Dreadnought, but it's it is grabbing in. But yeah, I took out some guys. So the Angels are not going to be looking forward to your grav or anybody else's.
Good.
But, yeah, and that should come out to about $50. I think when it's all said and done.
Well, yeah. So let's talk a little bit now about kind of the backgrounds we've created for these,
the fluffies.
The fluffies for our small.
Yeah. I just
had to kick my dog outside as he literally barked right into the microphone.
Oh. Well, I've been trying to. I think like a year or so ago, I bought the. I think it was the first Flesh Terror book by Andy Smiley. and it's kind of talking about them finding their home world. And so I've read that. I've read some fluff on them. I haven't read too many of his other books, but I'm trying to get back into it and look up. I think it's Emmett Nassar was their chapter master for a while. So I'm trying to read up on him, like back when he was a Blood Angel, and see like what his deal was. But I'm kind of diverging from that, like the nasty, like super aggro teen thing. I'm kind of getting away from that and kind of going more for like a whimsical feel. And that was all based off of a game I had with Dave. So
yeah. So everything I read about the kind of the Flesh Terrors fluff-wise is they are massive assholes. Incredibly violent, massive assholes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like they're always trying to test their mettle and prove themselves, but it isn't working out since they're a dying chapter. They only have like 400 guys left. So
they kind of have to be assholes on that there.
Or they should probably chill the fuck out and wait until their numbers grow. But instead they're like throwing themselves at dinosaurs the size of volcanoes. And like, we got this! Splat.
I don't got this. Rolled a 6 on that stomp table, did that dinosaur.
Yeah, so that was crazy. I think like reading that, because I think I was into that book at the very end. They had to prove themselves by taking out this thing that was the size of like a mountain, and like, really you gotta pick a different world, yo.
I have to say, one of my favorite things is that in these stories we have these superhuman modified 7-foot tall war beasts who are bred for destruction, and they're all taking down these monsters the size of mountains. And then on the game table, they get bitch slapped by Eldar, like a guardian, just kind of pew pew.
Quick, run! It's bolter fire. They have las guns.
Oh no, strength 3, but 30 of them. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your force here, your specific kind of detachment of little Flesh Terrors?
So the sad thing is like, I couldn't even tell you their names. I was kind of going through a list of, it's all old Yiddish for the most part, so I had to like write down over the cheat sheet for it. But yeah, so I lovingly call him the captain. There was a book series that came out by Gideon Defoe. They made a movie of it. It's the same people that did Wallace and Gromit, called The Adventures, or the Pirates and Adventures, an Adventure.
Is that like that stop motion claymation Pirates made by Aardvark Animation?
Yeah. It's so good. Like I was reading the books for a while, and then they came out with the movie, and I'm like, oh. But yeah, they kind of just had like these archetypical people. Or like the captain was super arrogant and like really whimsical, and then there was, and none of the people had names except for like one person whose name was Jennifer. But everybody else was like the pirate with rickets, the pirate with bedroom eyes, the pirate with a red scarf. And so I didn't do that exactly, but like I kind of like that archetypical feel. So you had the captain, and then you had the dreadnought, who was kind of his buddy, and they were both like, the two of them had these flights of fancy. They were, oh look, there's this this plasma obliterator, and it looks like it's about to fire. Let's go take it over. Like, really? Is that a good idea? No, it wasn't. And so I kind of saw him as like a Don Quixote kind of thing. And in the first story, there's like a reference to it. So in the Flesh Terrors fluff, or the Blood Angels fluff, like all the Blood Angels had, like they're all into the arts in some way, like either sculpture or whatever. They're kind of the more humane chapters, even though they have that darker side. And we're big into culture, and so like for the point of view of the reader, Simiel, the sergeant, like he had a literary fancy, so he was into old literature, and so he made that reference to Don Quixote, and so yeah, it's kind of him in all his misadventures, and then the guys trying to pull his ass out of him when they fail. So kind of, and then try not to take so much the typical bolter porn dialogue, in the Emperor's name she shall protect, but kind of taking like a more, I don't know, modern approach to that. So, which is horrible of me, and I shouldn't even play this game. But
hey,
for this story, work.
Forge the narrative, man. Right? Discuss with your opponent before playing.
I'm not going to use GW faux Latin here. Sorry.
I will use my own pig Latin to get that taken care of.
And this guy's just going to sound like Tupac Shakur. So, pay no mind. Yeah. So that's it kind of so far. Is just like them with their quest for glory in every ridiculous way possible. And I think it was the first game I played that really kind of solidified that idea in my head. When my boss, the captain in Terminator armor with a mastercrafted Thunderhammer, rushed as a 10-man squad of Marines and just got beat to shit in hand-to-hand. It was dubbed him Captain I Got This.
How many X's are in that name? Jagajish.
Yeah. He had some backup squad, but his backup squad did something else, and actually successfully, whereas he just ate it.
That is like the most hold my beer while I moment ever.
Yeah.
You guys, hold my beer while I beat up this squad.
Take the wheel. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So how's yours? Where'd you come up with the fluff for yours?
Oh man, I pulled it up my ass. I'm going to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
So I mean,
that's a good place for it.
My main thing of thinking is okay. I mean, fluff and making our story is a very big part of this. But because we're starting small and we're adding progressively each week, my thinking is why on earth are a small squad dispatched to any area for what reason? And I've read Black Library stories before where, you know, like a single squad of Marines kind of destroys an entire galaxy, and but you know, like for me and my experience playing the game, why is one squad deployed to this area? It's not going to be for an all-out conflict. It's not going to be for a battle. It's, you know, it's not going to be to respond to an enemy threat, because if that way, I'm sure you would land a single squad of Space Marines, but they would be backed up by Imperial Guard or PDF or, you know, something along that lines. So that's when it kind of came into my head that it was a retrieval mission or a kind of a quote-unquote rescue mission. So that's why I purchased the Inquisitor. My basic premise came from, this is, you know, one squad of guys, a captain, and a dreadnought going down to retrieve an Inquisitor and bring him back to Terra.
Okay.
I made them fifth company. One, because I really like the black trim on there, but also as a reserve company, I would imagine that those were the people would be like, hey, go pick up this dude. You're not doing anything else. Go do that. And then I had to kind of justify it to myself why Dreadnought would go there as well. So I mean, I figured he was just, you know, on the same strike cruiser, and then I also kind of. Unspeaking of, but backstory-wise, I haven't got into it yet, but him and Captain Janus of the 5th Company, who's my leader guy, fought together before he was entombed in the Dreadnought armor. And kind of a running thread along my narrative is like how with each battle, the Dreadnought, who's called Kurtz, is becoming kind of less of a person or the person that Janus knew. So while he still respects, you know, hey, he's still a great warrior, he's bringing honor to the Emperor in his chapter, with each kind of shot and blow, he's becoming less of the friend or the battle brother that Janus knew before. So, I mean, essentially what it starts with is I changed it from, it was a drop pod. After I wrote that, I was like, well, how the fuck are they going to get it off the ground again? And actually, after watching the Ultramarines movie, I changed it to a Storm Raven drops off the squad, the Dreadnought, and Janus on this planet's surface. And they pick up my Inquisitor Xander's power armor signal, or a power armor signal in the distance. And they kind of walk off towards that. Again, we spent how much time in the last episode ragging on the Ultramarine movie for just being like 2 hours of marching, and then that's the first thing narratively I do with my guys. So they march along, they follow their auspex to, you know, this signal they've been told is Janus in his power armor, and they come across a barren wasteland, kind of an old battlefield, all beat up to shit, no buildings, aside from one lone plasma obliterator. And the reason I included this is to try and narrow that points gap between my first game opponent, Ted.
I like how you're talking about me as though I'm not in the room.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm not. But
mine maxed out, like max upgrades to everyone was 560 points wise. And yours was a little under 1,000 with no upgrades, I think. Yeah. So we had this pitch battle against the Flesh Terrors. In your side of the story, you explained how your half blind, insane Death Company dreadnought saw the yellow armor, and thought it was Bad Moon orcs, and just was like, "Yeah, fuck it, kill them."
Well, they're hunchbacked and they're yellow, and
they are not. Their posture is perfect.
Well, with the backpack, it looks like a hunchback from a distance. When you're entombed in a sarcophagus with water damage components. Wow. Kind of like our last podcast.
yeah, exactly. Well, and honestly, next time we're going to use Skype because iTalk is not great right now.
iTalk's good.
I figure there's some great irony in us doing this to kind of, hey, thanks for putting up with our great audio, and then iTunes or the FaceTime audio really shitting out on us sometimes.
That's all good.
On my part of the audio, or my audio, my part of the story though is the Flesh Terrors have been dispatched to terminate the Inquisitor. They've been given orders from Terra that this man has, he's gone against the Emperor's way.
This was the original draft that didn't make it, right?
For my story.
Oh, okay.
This is
so it's not good enough that we're just a thrill seeker and terrors.
Well, it works into page 2 of my notes which we'll get into in probably like 20 episodes time. Okay. So it's a little thread that I needed to work there.
Okay.
But with the Imperial Fists being told that they needed to take him back or escort him back to Terra alive, Imperial Fists, of course, being known for their, level-headedness, really not being stubborn about anything whatsoever. They discussed everything. Yeah. It was a bloodbath. They said, no, your Flesh Terrors were, little dickish assholes with their snide little threats. And then they went on the offensive. And that's when Inquisitor Xanders made the decision to activate the Plasma Obliterator and use it against an Imperial force.
Yeah.
Which, is terrifying to the Imperial Fist because he's like, that's my battle brother. Yeah, he was a dick about it, but what the heck. But then when the Flesh Terror Terminators teleport down and then the big attacks start happening, then kind of self-defense starts to kick in. They realize they have a mission from the High Lords to bring back this Inquisitor they have to do. They just figured this is some rogue faction that they need to take care of. And it comes down to your captain was the only one left at the end of the battle.
Yeah.
All that was left on my side was the Inquisitor, the captain, a Marine, and a Dreadnought. And the game ended with our two captains being about an inch away from each other. It was super close. So the way I imagine that part of our narrative ending was, stop, you're defeated. We are taking him back to Terra, we're not kill. And and then the Flesh Terror is doing your typical, you fool, you don't know what you've done, da 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 da. And the Inquisitor coming in.
I like how Flesh Terrors talk.
The Inquisitor kind of coming forward and separating the two, and trying to instill calm here. Even though he fears. The Flesh Terror captain has made threats upon him. He's like, for the Emperor and all this other stuff. It's at this point that out of, spite and disgust, the Flesh Terror just kind of teleports back to his battle barge. He's like, he leaves with a very clever line, which I haven't thought of yet, but he's gone. The Imperial Fists kind of...
Hey, your shoes untied.
Pretty much. The Imperial Fists gather themselves together, and then they kind of march back to the pickup zone. And they march. No, I'm kidding. And it's at this point, my game 2 happens where I played our local club. Danny's been on the show a couple times.
Okay.
And his Tau Force. And we played one of the new missions coming out of Warhammer World, specifically geared to the Start Collecting boxes.
I hadn't heard about those, but that looks kind of fun.
They were really good. We did an ambush, so all of my stuff started in the center of the table. Danny had 2 12-inch deployment zones, one on each side of the table. And then we kind of just battled, and it was a really good scenario. Where I imagine is again, my guys were marching the Inquisitor back to the ship to take him back to Terra.
We found the ring. Let's get back.
I mean, essentially at this point, he's a prop. And then Danny's he has a shattered Farside enclave who are just trying to get the hell off the planet. So they kind of just tried to assault us while they were small in number and weak. I did end up winning that game. I was super stoked about that. And then after that, and they drive off the far side, they walk back to their ship, and they find on the ground, and this is moving into my next period here, a destroyed remains of a Storm Raven with mining equipment scars on the side and kind of claw marks through the paint job. And that's,
Squats or Demiurge. Yeah, Demiurge.
Demiurge. That must be it. And that's where my narrative stops right now. Well, for our listeners, that's where my narrative stops. I have very exciting stuff.
Phil, then, right?
Yeah, because Phil was super. When we've been talking about a different mission for since we started now, and he was on vacation the past couple of weeks. Obviously needs a vacation from his vacation. But so I had to gear up a mission that would work for my force at the level it's at, and then Phil's force at the level it's at. Now, Phil's force is it's the other half of the Deathstorm box, so it's literally nothing. It's a couple of Gene Stealer squads, and that's it. So, so I mean, I had to kind of do this thing where the idea is every time his unit dies, it's automatically going to come back on the table. It's just for me surviving for 5 turns.
Yeah.
And then where we go from there, I will say, spoiler alert, win or lose on the table in my story, I lose. So, So I'm having a blast kind of telling this story and kind of telling Janice's story and kind of driving the narrative of my army through his actions and decisions on this world, which I don't think we've even named this world we're on yet.
No. Who else is doing write-ups? I know you and I thought there was a couple other write-ups, right?
We're doing it. I know Joe / Dick did a write-up and then dropped out because he wouldn't be able to take care of it anymore.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anyone else.
I love the idea that Dick can't handle it anymore. Or take care of it anymore.
Yeah.
There's just some times when Dick can't handle it anymore.
Dick finished early. That's all I have to say on that one there. But yeah, I mean, and different. The thing I like about this, I mean, there's been a little bit of a kerfuffle locally because we have 2 narrative leagues going on at the same time, or 2 leagues going on at the same time.
Yeah.
But the difference is ours is hugely casual. I mean, hugely casual, and our expansion rate is tiny to none, and it's just about 5 or 6 of us who are just doing it for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
What I think is that not everyone has gone into quite the level of fluffed writing that we have, but everyone has a reason their guys are fighting, and everyone has a story behind their fight. We have a Necron player who has a story behind his fight. We have our Tau player who has a story behind his fight, and it's
is that Danny? There's 2 Tau players, right?
Yeah. So Danny has a story behind
2
his
Eldar
fight.
players, or 3 Eldar players.
Yeah. Oh, so many jet bikes in the first levels.
I know.
But yeah, like I said, even though and we have what I think is super interesting, and I know Dave's written a little bit of fluff for it, but hasn't kind of gone quite overboard to the dark side like I have. He has a Space Marine chapter that is slowly turning to chaos. And I think that's a fascinating point of view, and kind of seeing the way he's writing it and just the shifting ideas and kind of the little plays on words, our Papa Emperor, or I forget how he phrased it, but like kind of slowly turning to Nurgle for blessings. So I have to say, I really dig this. I think when Dave first started talking about doing the Tale of Gamers, it was just going to be kind of a neat excuse to put models together that I had, been sitting in the box for 3 years, 2 years, something like whatever that Death Storm box was. Maybe it was only a year.
But anyway, like, to be able to put together stuff that it hadn't been worked on in a bit, and but like the fluff part didn't really. I think it was like Dave really pushed that fluff part initially, like with his like trying to justify his like weird, clean, rough kind of Nurgle thing going on, and I kind of like dismissed it, but it's been like really fun now that I felt like the pressure from both the two of you to write, because this would have been like the first league that I didn't write anything, but it was kind of neat to be able to like go back and like start putting more time and investment, like emotional investment or intellectual investment in each character, and like so I think that was really neat. Like I think the first time I did something like this, I was playing orcs, and like I lost my war boss every time he stepped on the field. So I had to come up with like new reasons why he was either back or it wasn't really him; it was his twin brother. And like, so I think like having guys that you just like lose in troves was really kind of hard to write a story. But I think like this was kind of neat because maybe if you do lose your captain or something, you can kind of justify it. Well, he didn't die; he just got he just got punched in the face and knocked out or something like that.
I'm just doing.
You're not losing troves of stuff that you have to like somehow come up with an excuse as to why he shows up in the next story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm using the Monty Python excuse of "'tis a flesh wound," and moving on because my captain fell in the last game. But looking forward in my personal narrative for it, he's defending a position, so he shouldn't be moving very much. So I might even be like, hey, he can only move like 3 inches instead of 6.
Okay.
Just, that's kind of neat. Yeah, a really great moment happened during my game with Danny. One of the first things he did was he managed to taunt my Dreadnought enough to turn and go after one of his crisis suits, and it really exposed his back to another crisis suit, who promptly immobilized him. Mm-hmm. And so he was stuck the entire game facing the wrong way. He couldn't pivot, couldn't fire, couldn't do anything.
Oh, that's clever.
And then
Trixie or Tau.
Yeah, and so when the game ended, I was ahead on points. Danny's forces were pretty decimated. I had lost a few models. But we finished the game like pretty much close to each other, like within charge range. Cool. I was trying to think, why would they stop fighting at this point? This doesn't make any sense. Both of them have legitimate claims as to why they would be able to, quote unquote, win at this point. So that's when I decided that my Dreadnought would have like been either self-repaired or dragged himself over by his fist to where everyone else was, raised up his last cannon, and just kind of, for the Emperor and fried a guy, and everyone's like, let's get the fuck out of here now. So kind of like, I think that's something super important I learned about kind of narrative gaming in general, is you can make anything happen with a good enough reason. And kind of the image to me of a Dreadnought crawling by his one power fist, and it's the Venerable Dread, so it has that really sweet looking fist. It was a really good image to me, just crawling towards his fallen captain and the aliens who were shooting at them, yelling litanies of the Emperor and trying to, get everything done. That's a great image for me. So I'm having a hell of a lot of fun with the narrative side of it, maybe more than the game side of it. I'm fully, turning into that shitty fluff gamer.
That's terrible, man. See, competitive is the only way to go.
Oh, hells yeah. Yeah, it's going to do a full-on switch. You're going to get all pissy when I roll dice good. But yeah, that's where my narrative's at. I'm sure as we go on, there might be, let us know, did you like this mini-sode? Do you want to see more? We can talk to other players in our group about their armies and kind of what to bring along. Again, let us know. We kind of, we don't really do this for us sometimes. We will.
So I know Dave is probably going to be on the next episode. So he'll be able to give us a kind of insight into his army. And also our write-ups, at least one of yours, kind of partnered with one of mine, are both on the Facebook site. So
yeah, and I do need to get around to actually writing that second write-up after the battle, and
I think I might actually...
not just my outline for the next 20 battles.
Also, I think we might take all those and put them on, because we have a bunch of narratives that I've been posting from previous leagues on our website, but I think I might put these on our website as well, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
Cool. And that could be like, just a nice little repository of nerd fluff.
Yeah, and you guys can check all those out at mobrulesmedia.com.
Yep.
And yeah, absolutely.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Let's see where it goes. We'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank you for joining us for our little Mini-sode. Luckily, you did not get a full 2-week break from us. But I wanted to come back here, kind of talk about these little things, and just say hi and kind of just do a little structured chat about narrative, which is super fun for me. Ted, thank you for joining me over shitty FaceTime.
But hey, you know what? We're going to make this all worthwhile to you guys. And I have a moral to this story. Don't cook your hot dog for a minute and then eat it right afterwards. It'll burn your mouth, okay? Don't do that. So now you learn something.
Don't put hot wieners in your mouth. If you guys are on Twitter, I'm more active on Twitter now. Check me out at MobRulesJohn. And you can follow me like the creepy stalkers you guys are. Want to remind everyone, Book 8 of The Beast Arises is out now and available from all good bookshops and some terrible ones as well. The important thing is you pick that up, because in about a month's time, we're going to be talking about our third quarter review of The Beast Arises. We're going to be talking about books 7 through 9. We've decided, instead of kind of doing these every time a book comes out, because then every second episode would be, hey, it's a new Beast Arises, let's talk about that, which I don't have a problem doing.
I'm okay with that.
I don't have a problem doing, but I think some people might get bored of that pretty quickly. We're going to kind of go over the big points. And, oh man, from book 8, there's some big points coming out of book 7 and 8.
Right, we'll talk about that later. But.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. But it's a good read, and this one, of course, written by Gav Thorpe. It's called "The Beast Must Die." If you followed me on Twitter, you'd realize I won Mr. Thorpe's hashtag competition.
Nice. What'd you win with?
The Beast must really. Excuse me. The competition was he had hashtag The Beast Must, and you must finish that kind of thought or title. So the first one I put up there was "The Beast Must Find True Love Before the Last Petal Falls." I'm a sucker for Disney films. Yeah. But my winning entry was "The Beast Must Really Regret Letting the Boys Vote on a Rexit." Which, I'm 6,000 miles away, and I've lived in the U.S. for 10 years now. So it's a little easier on me than some of the people over there. But a little bit of politics always makes things better.
Yeah, I follow Gav on Facebook, and he doesn't get very political, but I think Brexit was definitely a hot button issue for him. So you definitely keyed in on something.
Oh, for sure. And then be sure follow him on Twitter as well, at Dennis Hamster. For some reason, but he posts a lot of good stuff. If you're an aspiring writer, he has a lot of really good hints and tips and kind of what to do. And he released an article last month on his website, gavthorpe.co.uk. I'm getting all of the gratuitous plugs out. About writing an individual story within a series and kind of the different things that go into creating one focus story, but having to kind of do the whole, like talking about The Beast Arises, Horus Heresy, all that other kind of fun stuff there. Okay. So check it out. Great read. That's about all of the gratuitous plugs I have right now.
We'll save the rest for the longest-sode.
Oh, yeah, the longest-sode. Ted and I will be back a week from today, which will be next Friday, or just whenever, you click the button, if you're just, because it's a podcast. It's no scheduled release. And we will be talking about the kind of underappreciated Lost Patrol game with Blood Angel Scouts versus Gene Stealers. And some jungle somewhere. We're going to say Cambodia, let's make it local. At least have one listener out there who can kind of relate to it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
So for Mob Rules, I've been John.
I'm Ted.
We will see you next week.
Keep it cheesy. This episode of Mob Rules has been brought to you by Mob Rules Media. Please join our Facebook group and be part of the conversation at facebook.com/MobRulesAK. You can also email us at themob@tophat-arts.com. Thanks for checking us out, and we will see you in 2 weeks.